Okay, I think we're ready to get started. We'll just dive in with a little intro. Emily, if you want to get started.
Hello,
Welcome back.
and welcome to today's essential workshop, Data-Driven Marketing with the 2026 Mid-Year Report. This workshop is part of a tiered series of high-impact educational workshops brought to you by our national Coldwell Banker Global Luxury Marketing team. As an essentials workshop, today's session will provide some guidance, strategies, and best practices for day-to-day impact with the 2026 Mid-Year Report. So before we dive in, we do have a few housekeeping items to go over. This class is being recorded, so while you can feel free to take notes throughout, you will have this recording to refer back to at a later date, which will be helpful as we will be sharing a ton of great info with you today. The chat, as well as everyone's mics and cameras, have been disabled and will be throughout the presentation just to allow you to focus on the content. We will host a live Q&A at the end of the presentation. At that time, we will enable your mics and cameras. And then lastly, we have a few disclaimers that we're required to read so that this recording can be shared. We appreciate you being here since the program is optional and discusses best practices for your consideration. If you are thinking of adopting any of them, please make sure to review the requirements in your region with your manager, including those related to contacting consumers. We do want to highlight the importance of the Telephone Consumer Protection Act, also known as TCPA. The general guidelines are that it's okay to call people if the person recently gave you their phone number, but remember to check the DNC list on a regular basis if you haven't spoken to that person in a while. You will also want to check the DNC lists anytime you don't have permission. Automated calling, texting platforms should never be used. Pre-recorded messages and artificial voice should ever be used, and you will be personally liable for any violations of the TCPA. And then on this slide here, that's how you can access the do not contact list when you're in desk.
Okay, thank you, Emily, for sharing those disclaimers. Welcome everybody again, and thank you for joining us. In this workshop, we will be exploring how to strategically leverage the Coldwell Banker Global Luxury Mid-Year Report as a powerful data-driven marketing tool. So I'll cover a quick overview of what the Mid-Year Report is and why it matters, followed by some practical applications for leveraging the Mid-Year Report and using it as a marketing tool. After that, we'll share a quick snapshot of what's shaping luxury real estate at the halfway mark of 2026, and then we are so excited to have Dr. Lawrence Yoon, the Chief Economist at the National Association of Realtors, joining us to provide his expert insights into the mid-year report and the luxury market as a whole. We'll then just wind down by sharing some key resources and then open to a live Q&A session with Dr. Yoon. So just first things first, we'd like to introduce ourselves as your instructors for today's workshop. My name is Tori Schiff. I'm the Luxury Marketing Manager for Connecticut, New York, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania.
And I'm Emily Kaplan, the Luxury Marketing.
I think Emily's mic cut out there, but she is the Luxury Marketing Specialist for Florida, Mid-Atlantic, Carolinas, and Atlanta.
Thank you. I should be back on now. Sorry about that.
Yep, can hear you now. Technical difficulties. But just to kick things off, we'll start with a quick overview of what the reports are and why they matter. So the Coldwell Banker Global Luxury Program releases 2 reports annually, the Trend Report and the Mid-Year Report. Each report is built in a sleek editorial style and is backed by trusted data sources, including the Institute for Luxury Home Marketing, James Edition, the National Association of Realtors, and our own top-performing luxury property specialists. Together, they give you the latest luxury real estate intelligence that you can use to better engage with affluent clients and elevate your business with practical real-world knowledge. And because these reports are published twice a year, the information is always fresh, relevant, and timely, making them powerful pieces to incorporate into your personal branding and share with your high-end clients. So to get the most out of the mid-year report, it's important to first understand exactly what it is and what its purpose is. So the mid-year and trend reports are your go-to resources for trusted luxury intelligence. Released annually at the halfway mark, the mid-year report specifically provides a snapshot of current performance and market trends measured against predictions made at the beginning of the year. And it also offers an outlook for the next 6 to 24 months, helping you stay ahead of the market and giving you an edge when working with clients. Beyond that, it also provides a powerful conversational framework. Even a single data point from the report can elevate your everyday conversations, listing presentations, and client consultations. The language, charts, and themes make it easy to explain market behavior clearly, set expectations, and strengthen trust. And additionally, it's a meaningful and flexible marketing tool. You can use the mid-year report insights in a variety of ways that we'll speak about more later, just to add data-backed authority to your brand.
Yeah, so now that we've established what the mid-year report is, let's explore a few more reasons it should be a part of your toolkit. So when working with sellers, this resource really helps you set clear expectations so they see their home the way buyers do. You can also use the information in the report to guide pre-listing improvements and make potentially sensitive conversations a bit easier. Additionally, the report can help to shape and strengthen your marketing initiatives.
It can also be a great tool when navigating conversations with your buyer clients by helping you clarify trade-offs and reframe compromise as a strategy. You can also use it to anchor their search and lifestyle logic rather than unrealistic wish lists that end up limiting them from finding their true dream home. And it allows you to compare markets with confidence and guide your buyers with authority rooted in national and global insights.
The report also looks at pricing and inventory expectations for the rest of the year, which becomes essential, especially during negotiations. Help each party understand the other side and bridge expectation gaps by rooting conversations in market logic over emotion, and strengthen your recommendations by framing guidance that reflects broader high-end behavior rather than your own personal opinions. So one of the best ways to use the mid-year report is to customize it and share it with your clients. You can personalize the report through Marketing Center or Express Docs by adding a branded cover along with your headshot and contact information at no cost. Once personalized, you can download a digital version or print through Express Docs with just a few clicks. We also recommend layering in insights from the mid-year report across your broader marketing efforts and existing materials. A consistent, engaging social presence is one of the easiest ways to stay visible in luxury. You'll find ready-made social media tiles, suggested messaging, and a short promotional video on desk for you to personalize and share with your network. Alongside the brand social assets, you can even elevate your experience or your expertise by turning mid-year report insights into your own content. Think a series of short 30 to 60-second videos focusing on one key takeaway at a time and what it means for your local market.
You can also consider adapting highlights from the report for your own blog, e-newsletter, or e-blasts as another way to demonstrate your expertise and reconnect with your network. You can elevate your digital presence further by also showcasing the mid-year report on your agent website, linking to it directly through your social media bio, and including it in your email signature.
For print materials, send out some postcards to your target luxury markets, sharing insights from the report and positioning yourself as an expert in the high-end space. You can incorporate QR codes on your print pieces that drive clients to the report, or maybe a curated summary that you've created. It can also be useful for listing presentations. Consider printing a small bulk order of your custom copies on Express Docs and bringing them to listing appointments, luxury events, open houses, or mailing them to your top clients. It's a fast, simple way to reinforce your luxury positioning, whether or not you hold the luxury property specialist certification. With 2 luxury reports each year, you have months of timely, relevant content to work with. How you use the mid-year report is ultimately up to you, but by tapping into these insights, you position yourself as a market authority and continue to deliver the trusted guidance that your affluent clients expect.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Sorry about that. So we are so thrilled to have Dr. Lawrence Yoon joining us in just a moment to provide his expert insights into the data. But we first just want to give you a brief breakdown of the top trends outlined in the mid-year report. So here is what's shaping the luxury market in 2026. First, we're learning that luxury is operating outside of the headlines. So despite economic and geopolitical uncertainty, affluent buyers are still remaining active and luxury home values are holding firm. The growing portfolio mindset amongst affluent buyers is also bolstering the luxury market. High net worth individuals, especially the ultra affluent, are moving from volatile paper wealth investments to more tangible real estate assets. And a majority of our surveyed luxury property specialists said that asset diversification was their clients' primary financial motivation.
While luxury inventory declined in early 2026, a wave of shadow inventory may still be waiting to emerge. Nearly 60% of luxury property specialists expect inventory to increase slightly in the second half of the year as seller confidence builds. Additionally, the easing of the mortgage rate lock-in effect is expected to free up some housing supply. We also took a look at the two S's of prime real estate: space and scarcity. Affluent buyers are prioritizing detached homes, higher bedroom counts, unique properties, and land. A trend being referred to as land maxing is on the upswing. Land maxing is a practice where a luxury homeowner purchases the property next door to preserve privacy or ensure the future ability to build a family compound.
I just love that phrase, land maxing. But moving on, a general wealth transfer is really changing luxury real estate. So, as discussed in the 2026 trend report earlier this year, this unprecedented generational wealth transfer is bringing a new class of younger cash equipped buyers into the luxury market who look nothing like the first time buyers of previous generation. 8% of these first-time luxury buyers used an inheritance last year, and 1 in 10 first-time buyers are now paying in cash, with 26% tapping into financial assets such as stocks or crypto for down payments or all cash purchases, which is the highest share ever recorded. And affluent buyer interest in luxury real estate is accelerating worldwide, with the US emerging as a standout destination for international capital. The total global luxury real estate inquiries jumped nearly 51% in the first 5 months of 2026, and US luxury inquiries specifically doubled year over year. While California and New York continue to rank amongst the most sought after markets for non US international investors seeking long term stores of wealth.
And insights like these are only possible because of you. Every year, our team sends out a survey to the Coldwell Banker Global Luxury Property Specialists, and your on-the-ground insight is really what makes the report credible and relevant and different from anything else in the industry. And this year, that collective experience or expertise reached far beyond just our network. The mid-year report Bloomberg and Global and the Wall Street Journal. So that visibility is a direct reflection of the value that you bring when you participate. The top themes this year's survey showed us, according to your peers, was that inventory calls the shots, with limited supply still shaping buyer behavior and dictating where and when transactions happen. Detached single-family homes are heavily outpacing attached properties. And then third, rates matter because even cash-heavy buyers watch interest rates closely to decide whether to use liquid capital or financing. So these insights set the stage for the broader economic picture, which brings us to the next layer of perspective. I just want to make sure that we have our guest speaker on. Not only do we have the benefit of our global luxury agents input, but we also partner with the National Association of Realtors to bring in macro level perspective. And today we're fortunate enough to have Dr. Lawrence Yoon, Chief Economist of NAR, here to connect these frontline perspectives with the larger economic forces shaping. We're going to do a slight transition.
Okay, I will stop sharing my slides now. And feel free to take it away, Dr. Yoon.
All right, great. Thank you for inviting me to share some of my thoughts. I saw the great report. It was very nicely done. And the data that was presented there, something I learned, but also corroborate with what I have been seeing that the housing market, well, some of the national headline does not really reach the what's happening on the luxury market because it's the luxury market that has outperformed compared to other segments of the market. Let me put the slide onto the screen, and then these slides, again, the session is recorded, so it will be available to you. But let me put it onto the screen and go from there. So let me put it on the slide mode, and I think you can see it. And I think Tori will definitely let me know if something is not moving. So
You're all
I have
good.
advanced. I have advanced to the next slide, which is to show the overall national picture, because I think as a specialist in the luxury market, you also have to be aware of the consumer mindset because they are looking at headline news. And the headline news is indicating that the housing market is still in a sales slump condition, just like national employment data, national GDP numbers. One needs to have a national home sales market. So what the consumer's mindset is that home sales, as you see the big decline that happened in 2022, when the Federal Reserve aggressively raised interest rate, so mortgage rate going from 3% to 8%, essentially brought the home sales down. And ever since then, it's been trending at that low level. So far this year, not seeing any meaningful increase. But nonetheless, if we look at how many homes were sold once the mortgage rate increased, well, people still buy homes because life-changing events, or people view it as alternative to the stock market, paper wealth into the real asset. So just cumulatively, there has been 15 million home sales from the time that mortgage rate increased. In other words, there are many homeowners today with 6% or higher mortgage rates, and they're not necessarily locked in. We constantly hear about the lock-in effect. So with the passage of time, we are seeing more and more people in a position where lock-in effect is not that important. And if we look at the home prices, though even though the unit sales are in a slump, there is no slump in home prices. It is an all-time high. Luxury market leading the way. Consequently, there has been a 53% increase in home prices from 2020, when that ugly COVID virus came to the country, but home prices booming, 53% increase, especially on the upper end market, performing better. And as a result of that, what we are finding is that percent of luxury home sales, as we define it as $1 million plus homes, the percentage of the home sales that are $1 million plus have increased. Now, on the report that you are given, Coldwell Banker Luxury Market Report, they classify luxury market as the top 10% of the market. So I think, it depends on how you want to view it. So it's also another good way to view it. What is the top 10% of the market doing? So the Coldwell Banker Luxury Market Report also demonstrating the upper end market moving very well condition. And also, if we look at broadly over a long-term time span, 20-year time span, not number of home sales, but how many $1 million home is out there in the marketplace. So what one finds is that 20 years ago, only 1.5 million homes in the country were in the $1 million plus. Today, that stock of home is approaching 7 million homes. So as you can see, the growth in the $1 million property is much higher than overall, say, home ownership housing unit conditions. So again, the market opportunity in the luxury end is opening up. It's much greater opportunity now than before. And just copying one chart directly from the report that I perused through, so one can see here that the inventory on the luxury market is increasing, the sales are increasing, and the prices are increasing. So despite the national headline, the luxury market moving forward, advancing into better territory. Now let's look at state-by-state comparison regarding the home price change from pre-COVID condition to the most recently available condition. And one sees that price growth has occurred all across the country. But look specifically like Florida, 70% price increase. Connecticut, maybe part of the remote work policy. So people are saying from Manhattan, why should I be in Manhattan when I can work from a luxurious property out in Connecticut? So Connecticut got a boost. But I wonder whether the new mayor in New York City would have impact over the long term, where some people begin to leave the New York City area and go into the nearby area, whether it's in New Jersey or Connecticut or even in Massachusetts condition. But at least the factual data you see here on the graph shows that home prices have risen pretty much across the board, all across the country, with some states doing a little better than others. I mentioned about the home sales slump, but no slump in home prices. So if one combines the two together, so one is looking at dollar volume. So if one is looking at the dollar volume, we are actually above pre-COVID condition, especially on the upper end market. So because of the price increases, dollar volume is above the pre-COVID condition and still advancing. And because home price at a record high, we are finding households' real estate net worth at $35 trillion. Once one goes into $1 trillion, it's hard to put our fingers around it, but you can see on the chart, it is at a record high, but it also means that there was probably some generational wealth transfer ahead, whether it is simply that baby boomers transfer their wealth to their children and grandchildren, or even while living, they said, well, I have so much wealth, so much real estate wealth. Maybe I want to help my sons and daughters who are in their 20s purchase a home. So huge potential for generational wealth transfer given the large increase in real estate wealth. Now, stock market is all-time high, and I'm glad to see it on the report that people are looking to diversify away from the stock market into more tangible real estate asset. But nonetheless, stock market is also helping purchase the real estate property or even second home or even third home. So maybe the hybrid work model is indicating, for example, I am in Washington, to say that you need to have a home near DC area because you still need to go to office every once in a while. But during those remote work days, maybe you want to have a property out in Carolinas, or maybe in the out in the Hamptons. So you see that stock market is also providing the wealth support to purchase the second and third property. One of the interesting part, this is from my colleague, Dr. Jessica Lautz, who is quoted frequently in the report, was that baby boomers, which we thought would be trading down, they're not really trading down. So we are looking at what type of property are people buying on their next home purchase. So as you can see, younger millennial, when they're buying their next property, they're looking for a larger size home. Same thing for older millennials. But if you look at the baby boomers who have substantial wealth, they're not really downsizing at all. They're essentially moving sideways. And maybe, there's some status involved, or maybe during Thanksgiving, they want to invite the whole family over. So we're not really seeing downsizing effect among the baby boomers. And furthermore, the cash transaction remained elevated. So ever since the arrival of COVID, the real estate wealth rising, and maybe because of the combination of stock market wealth, real estate wealth, we are seeing more all cash transactions. And I found that quite eye-popping when I read the Coldwell Banker report, specifically in Miami. Well, the percentage of all cash transaction on $1 million plus. So look at this, depending on the price point, one is essentially saying it is more likely to be all cash rather than relying on mortgages. We know that the mortgages are not behaving well right now, but cash purchases, they are not using mortgages at all. But I still want to highlight that the broader economy is indicating K-shaped economy. So this is a consumer sentiment. And I'm sure you have heard on the news about consumer sentiment remaining very, very low. So you see the figure recently, very low. What I find surprising about this chart is look in the middle of the graph. In the middle of the graph, 2008, 2012, that is a foreclosure crisis. That is when America had an economic recession. Today, we don't have foreclosure crisis. Today, we are not in economic recession. yet people are indicating that we are in a K-shaped economy. And maybe this is the reason why, Mandani was able to get elected in New York City. In Seattle, as a socialist, got elected in Seattle market, which we are beginning to hear that wealthy individuals are beginning to move out of Seattle into Bellevue, which is nearby, where the mayor do not have authority over. So very interesting that we are in the midst of K-shaped economy where consumer sentiment very low. And one of the driver of the K-shaped economy is that student debt delinquency rate you see rising and rising and rising after a period of where government said you don't have to repay temporarily. But that period is over and students are saying they cannot repay those loans. But at the same time, on real estate, we are not in foreclosure crisis, nor are we going to face foreclosure crisis. Mortgage delinquency, it is at historically low levels. You may say it's rising, but it's rising from super low levels and still at low levels today. So I would say that if you are looking for any foreclosure property to reach the market, it's not happening. Very low mortgage delinquency condition. And quickly, just covering the labor market before wrapping up, we are not in an economic recession. We have record high number of people receiving paycheck. So total jobs in America. Right before COVID, you see the COVID lockdown impact. But once the economy reopened, now we have record high employment. But we need to be mindful that the job addition is a little sluggish, but we are not in a recession. Over 500,000 jobs since the beginning of the year. So all these are potential new sets of buyers. And just for state-by-state comparison, green color states are the superstars in terms of job creation, while nearly every state is adding job. But even in Hawaii or Vermont, where they are not really adding job, people who are buying second property, third properties, clearly a resort destination in Vermont and Hawaii, they're seeing increase in luxury home sales. Now, I wonder what would happen if the mortgage rate was to retreat back down. So the red line is actual. And right before the oil price shock that we saw in late February, mortgage rate had actually reached the 4-year low levels, 6% average. Then the oil price shock pushed up the mortgage rates. But imagine if somehow there's a resolution related to Persian Gulf crisis or oil tanker can move out. If the mortgage rate decline, what additional housing demand that could come from that condition? And I just did a scenario. National median home price today is around $400,000. I know you are on the luxury end, so you are already in the $1 million plus. But I put this scenario to counter some of the pessimism that is spread in the social media. In the social media, they're indicating there's a price crash of 30% in the upcoming year. It's not happening. We don't have foreclosures. But just running some scenarios, national median home price will reach $1 million in about one generation, which means that luxury property will probably reach $3 million or $4 million. So that's how it works historically. And consequently, one of the advocacy work that NAR is working on. I'm in Washington, and our advocacy team is out on the Hill, just a few blocks from here, to say, let's lift the capital gains exemption, because with price increases, currently 13 million homeowners, if they were to sell their property, they have to pay capital gains tax. That exemption amount, $250,000 for single, $500,000 for married couple, it is simply insufficient. So we're indicating that, we don't want homeowners to be hit with this capital gains tax. So trying to lift that exemption amount so that people are not ensnared in this tax. That just means more inventory coming onto the market on the luxury property, which means more sales opportunity. So that is one of our priority in terms of advocacy effort in Washington, D.C. My final slide, what you can anticipate. Take it with a grain of salt, just like weather forecasts. No forecast would be certain, but when I run some of the analysis condition, that I think that with the job gains happening, stock market still elevated, I still think we're going to squeak out a little gain in 2026. Certainly, that is already the case on the luxury market condition, and I don't see any price decline. So with this, maybe 2026 we see a little turning in the corner, but anytime there is a turn in the corner, often it is the beginning of a uh, multi-year recovery. So anytime market turns, it is not a one-year turn. It is the beginning of possibly 5, 6, 7-year rise in home sales activity. So far, the luxury market has led the way, and I think it will continue to lead the way. So thank you for the opportunity, and thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I'm just getting my slides back up here. Thank you so much for joining and sharing that valuable information. And Dr. Yun has also graciously offered to stick around for the Q&A portion, and I'm sure we have a lot of questions for our subject matter expert. So if you have any questions for him, you'll be able to ask them in just a few moments. But first, I just want to wrap up with a couple of resources and recommendations. As a reminder, you can find digital versions of the latest reports on the Coldwell Banker Global Luxury blog, and additional resources for the mid-year report, such as PDF versions, FAQs, top takeaways, and promotional assets can be found right on the main page of the Global Luxury section within Desk, as shown here. We also want to just remind you of some broader marketing support resources. ColdwellBankerMarketing.com provides a central hub for you to access all additional support offered by the field marketing team, including links to the marketing catalog, next available appointment, and additional live workshops, and other resources. The website is not specific to the Global Luxury program and is most useful for agents who are looking for more technical or product-specific support.
Thank you again, Dr. Yoon. As you begin to process everything we've covered today, we just encourage everyone to be strategic in how you move forward. Start by simply reading through the report just to get a full depth of knowledge it has to offer. Consider highlighting key insights that apply to your market specifically or your business as you go in and begin incorporating those insights into your client conversations. Explore your customization options and order your custom reports in Express Docs. Incorporate the report into your personal marketing strategy. Share it on social media with our branded templates. And then, of course, for our certified LPS agents on the call today, please be on the lookout for the Trend Report survey later this year to share your expert insights and help shape the content for the 2027 Trend Report. So you don't have to do everything all at once. Start small, stay consistent.
I think
to
Emily
support
cut
you
out
along
there.
the way.
Oh, so she's back. Just as Emily was saying, start small, stay consistent, lean on us, your luxury marketing team, for support along the way. And again, we'll be sharing those contacts in the chat in a moment. But now we will stop recording. We'll enable microphones and cameras, and we will open the floor to a live Q&A session with Dr. Yoon. Just keep in mind any questions surrounding topics that are specific to you or your market area should be directed toward your dedicated luxury marketing team, whose contact information we'll be sharing. But now we will open it up. If you have a question, please raise your digital hand, and we will unmute you and enable your camera. Okay, we have no hands raised as of yet, but we do have some questions in the chat, so I'll just start reading those out. Someone asked Dr. Yoon, are the cash sales in Miami a product of the insurance environment?
I'm not sure if it's an insurance environment, but we have noted that some of the Wall Street related or hedge funds are beginning to locate away from, say, what used to be traditional New York City or Chicago and beginning to move over to Miami. And consequently, it could be that Miami wants to be the new Wall Street of the South. So you may be seeing that phenomena. And also, it's a big attraction for international buyers. Sometimes international buyers do not want to hassle with mortgages, and they just want to buy property quickly. But it's quite stunning when I saw the statistics in the report about Miami. More than half of home sales, all cash transactions. But your report when I look at the data from the Miami Association of Realtors, collaborating, that there's quite a substantial all-cash transaction happening in that market.
Thank you. Someone is also wondering whether you project interest rates will continue to keep rising.
So interest rate condition, I think many of the real estate professionals probably have heard mortgage rate reach 18% in the early 1980s. That's before many of us were even born. But we have heard those stories. But it's worth recalling, why did it happen? It happened because of the oil price shock that happened in the 1970s. We had high inflation for 10 years, and the only way to get rid of that was drastically raise interest rate. Well, this time around, we do have oil price shock, but not dramatically, but still it is an oil price shock. So that is pushing up, nudging up the inflationary pressure, and consequently about when the Federal Reserve will cut interest rate. At the beginning of the year, many anticipated Federal Reserve will do 2 or 3 rate cut. Well, that is now off the table because of high oil prices. But you see that mortgage rate has only risen a small amount from 6% to 6.5%, or maybe it will go up to 7%. I think today's mortgage rate is around 6.8%. But it all depends on what's going to happen in the Persian Gulf. If there's some resolution in the Persian Gulf, I think the mortgage rate will begin to inch downward and possibly even go down quite steeply, quickly, if the Fed thinks that that could alleviate some of the inflationary pressure in the future. So I would say, when will the interest rates stop rising? Well, a lot of uncertainty, but principally related to what's going to happen in the Persian Gulf situation, with a resolution or a continuing conflict.
Wonderful. Thank you. I'll just read, everybody feel free to raise your hand and come off mute if you want to ask a question, but I can also just keep reading from the chat. But another question we have is, how about the addition of rising property taxes? Do you see that impacting pricing?
Property taxes, I think New Jersey is one of the highest property tax as percentage of the value, or even percentage of people's income. Similarly, in Connecticut situation. And we saw the luxury property prices actually come down in, for example, in Greenwich, Connecticut before COVID. And that could be the reason, the high property tax condition. And there was also a limitation about what one could deduct the property tax in their federal income federal return. And there was a limit of only 10,000, but through NAR advocacy, now the property tax deduction amount has increased from 10,000 to 40,000. And consequently, we saw prices in Greenwich, Connecticut beginning to spring higher, beginning to rise. So property taxes certainly is an additional burden for homeowners. But the ability to deduct property tax, at least it is no longer limited. It goes all the way up to 40,000. So I think most people can fully deduct it. But for the locality, this is a state issue, local issue as to whether you want to put a limit on it or not. I know in Florida they are considering potential elimination of property tax condition. But anytime there is a higher cost of living, whether in grocery store or gas station, that just means that there's less money available for down payment savings. Maybe it doesn't impact the luxury market, but in the first-time buyers market, it certainly hinders some of the first-time buyer potential if the other costs of just general cost of living, or even home ownership costs, maintenance costs, property tax, property insurance costs rises. Those are important factors that goes into the calculus of whether people want to buy or not.
Yes, and as a resident of Southern Connecticut, I can agree. We are certainly seeing that. Another question we have is, what do you think is the likelihood of increasing the capital gains deduction?
It's the only thing I can say here is that our advocacy team is, constantly talk with the members of Congress. The White House appears very open to it. We communicate with the White House condition, but we're trying to find the right vehicle. So I think there is a new budget legislation that needs to be passed. But given that it only requires 50 vote in the Senate rather than the traditional 60 vote, we're seeing whether to possibly have one of the senators attach that into the legislation, but I cannot really say the timeline on it. And every time I ask our chief advocacy officer, what is the probability? And she said, well, today it may be zero, but it goes from 0 to 100% very quickly. But we don't know when that time will occur. But we certainly have relayed that message to Congress and here in Washington.
Thank you. Do we have any other questions? If anybody wants to pop it into the chat or raise your virtual hand, we'll give that a moment.
In the meantime, I'm just going to pop a few resources that we discussed today in the chat for you all to reference later.
And we did get another question in the chat. How do you think generational wealth is, oh, sorry, it went away. How do you think generational wealth transfer is influencing younger affluent buyers, and what priorities are shaping their demand?
Our report last year showed that first-time buyers are struggling to come in. The typical age of a first-time buyer, which had been in the late 20s or early 30s, reached 40 years last year. I mean, that was quite a discouraging sign about the market condition. But inside that report, it also shows that among those people, first-time buyers who are able to get in, they're getting a little more help from the family members, particularly parents. So I think we will begin to see more generational wealth help just because the baby boomers, especially who are on the upper side of the K-shaped economy, have substantial wealth. So you may begin to see more incidents of, say, grandparents, parents helping out their younger generation get that entry-level home. And the entry-level home may be a luxurious home among those upper crust segment of the society.
And what is the projected impact of the 21st Century Road to Housing bill that just passed?
It has about 50 items, all related to boosting supply over the long run. So it's not an immediate impact situation. For example, it offers some tax credit incentive to convert, say, empty office building into condominiums, or trying to lower regulations so the builders can become a little more active. And in some locality where they are saying we don't want to build, strong NIMBYism, they may lose some of the federal grant, while areas where they produce more housing supply, they get additional federal dollars. So it's like 50 smaller items, essentially to boost a little more supply to the marketplace. So it's not an immediate impact. It's just the impact cumulatively, all these 50 items may be much more impactful, say a couple of years from now, but it's to boost supply steadily over the long term.
And can you explain what you mean by baby boomers moving sideways?
When we look at when the baby boomers are selling their home, they're selling their home, and what is their next home? Is it the size of the home increasing or decreasing or about the same? And what we are finding is that on average, when baby boomers sell their home, the next home they purchase is of same square footage as the one they sold.
Thank you. That so far is everything that's in the chat. But while we have this expert here, please do feel free to ask any questions you have. Okay, we do have another one. So from your vantage point at NAR, what is driving the split between the ultra luxury tier and entry-level luxury? And how should agents explain this divergence to clients?
So I think it's just general overall K-shaped economy. So what the K-shape means is that you look at the letter K. So one group is moving higher, while other group is moving lower. So we are seeing it in many of the economic variables, whether in the luxury good sales, which is rising, while sales at a dollar store, they are saying that there is a little slower, sluggish activity. We are also seeing in terms of actual number of quantity people are buying. So people on the upper end, they're spending a little more money, while the people on the lower end, they're settled with credit card debt. The credit card delinquency is rising. Stock market is at essentially near record high, even though it has come down somewhat from the recent high condition. And real estate wealth is definitely record high, but that's only homeowners. 40% of the population are renters, and they are not participating in the wealth. So we have this strange situation where the K-shape upper end continue to improve, while the bottom segment of the society appears to be struggling financially, and consequently, we are seeing it also in the home sales, where you go up the price point, the increase in home sales on the upper end is doing much better than, say, on the lower price point condition.
And do you feel that buyers moving sideways are primarily trying to avoid capital gains?
That is a possibility. I mean, capital gains is more related to sale of a home. Unlike, say, 30 years ago, where you sold a home and whatever proceed, you have to buy a home, a little higher price or something like this in order to avoid the capital gains. But that's not the case today. Today, it's just about the sale of a home. So if the home value, I mean, one can easily envision, say, an elderly person whose spouse passed away. So a widow is living in a large size home, but the home has acquired such a large capital gains. The capital gains exemption is only 250,000. So if you're living in, say, California, Florida, that 250,000 is clearly not enough of an exemption, so they're exceeding that. So many people are actually not selling. So not even going sideways, not selling because they don't want to pay the capital gains tax. But I think the movement of the sideway, where many people predicted baby boomer will be downsizing. They become empty nester, maybe they go into smaller size home, but we are not really seeing it in the data. People are essentially moving into a similar size home as they are selling, as they are buying their next home.
And another question we have in the chat, do you forecast a consolidation at these price levels or retracement as part of the greater price affordability movement trend?
I think the housing affordability is really on the mortgage rate, at least in the short term. Yeah, so I think the mortgage rate has the big impact in terms of providing opportunity for the first-time buyers. Again, on the luxury end, cash transactions. But the first-time buyers, you are real estate professionals, so you clearly know that at lower interest rate, some people suddenly qualify for a mortgage, while at the higher interest rate, they don't. So if the mortgage rate was to retreat back down, and in today's economic circumstance, again, oil prices, what happened to Persian Gulf. So if we have a resolution on that, mortgage rate goes down to what it was back in February, which was 5.99% average. I think you will begin to see much more robust activity on the starter home market condition. But at the moment, at least luxury property specialists, you are somewhat immune from the mortgage rate changes.
One more question we have is, with your reference to cash purchases at an elevated level, what should agents be prepared for when they're working with cash-ready clients versus finance buyers?
So I think the catch the buyers, that's a huge advantage. In some market, there is a shortage of inventory. Not all markets. I mean, there is plentiful inventory. For example, in Tennessee or Texas or Florida, where the home building has been quite active, but much shorter, tighter inventory in, say, Massachusetts, California, New Jersey. So in a tight market condition, I mean, cash offer is much more attractive to the sellers. So consequently, one may even put, one do not have to do drastically what do you call it, the up bidding over the listing price for the cash offer, knowing that you don't have that mortgage contingency. So I think the cash buyers, they are much better position to get that home just because they're all cash.
Okay, then I think we might be ready to wrap up. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Yoon, for your amazing insights, for speaking to all of these trends that we're seeing and answering our questions. It's truly so valuable, and we really appreciate you being on here. Also appreciate everybody else for joining today. Again, Emily did pop some resources in the chat, including our list of luxury marketing team and their contact information. So please feel free to reach out if you need anything else. And have a great day.